Welcome everybody. While everybody gets on, I just wanted to welcome you here. I am so excited about being here with you today. If you have any questions, put question marks, 3 question marks in the chat, and then I'll be able to address any questions as we move forward. Um, this is today's conversation really is deeply sobering for me. Um, because it puts things in position in place, and more importantly, it's going to be, it's my intent for it to be transformational. Now the key with that is that transformation happens from the inside out, because what we are discussing tonight is not really just simply about the crime part of it. It's bigger than that. It's really about identity. And the piece for identity is connected to, it's identity is more than money, but this is about money. It's about motherhood. It's about what happens when identity is built on your image and money, and it really becomes performance. And then what really happens when control, because we're going to talk about 3 cases, when control is mistaken for love and children are left to carry the consequences. Now, right now, we are looking at 3 real cases. One of my favorite, and not because of what she did, but because this is how I entered into this space, is Kouri Richins, and I'll talk about that just a little bit more. We're also going to talk a little bit about Donna Adelson and Tracey Grist. Not to judge them, um, not, but to understand one powerful truth. Decisions and love without alignment can still create damage at levels that we have no idea of. Now, I'm going to address it from a neural space and a financial space, because that's my background. My background is neural change, or the way you think, and also it's from a place of financial, because I have vast financial background. And again, that's how I got addicted to this, to Kouri Richins. So a lot of the time will be based on hers, because hers is directly financial, and the forensic accountant, I just, I don't even know her, but she's my friend. She's just my friend. She gives me happy thoughts. So, and what we're going to do on the neural side is we're literally going to take some of the information and we're going to reframe it in such a way that it allows other people to look at what happened and see ebbs and flows that may be happening in their life, that they can start adjusting to move forward in a way that will benefit them and benefit their long-term decisions and family. So that is the intent. It's about understanding money, understanding more deeply about motherhood, identity, and living and leaving a legacy. And that's a bonus to talk about that in the area, especially of Kouri, all 3 cases. So the goal again is to move the conversation from true crime to transformation. So let's start with how I got started a little bit more. And like I said, with Kouri Richins' case, that Kouri Richins' case was phenomenal to me when the forensic accountant got on there, and she was brilliant. She is literally brilliant on how she unraveled all of it and went back. And that was part of my happy spot when my daughter, Dr. Berry, was working on this. And this made such a difference for me, because what it did would give me insight to how people's decisions not just from an identity perspective, but when it connects to money, how you can keep on going after something that is self-destructive. And so that's how I got started in this. And it's not that the whole space is that, because it's really deeper set in the fracture of identity. And then when you find a fracture, how do you bridge the gap without ending up clink, clink? Okay, so that's part of it. So that's where we're at. So now, as you know, or you may not know, Kouri Richins was actually sentenced yesterday to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, this doesn't even tap into all the things that she did on the financial side. There's still a lot of that that's open. And that is something that is she's going to go through the system. I'm sure as well, they're going to do some, they're going to go back and try to retry this and do some other things because of this. But one thing I noticed, and you may or may not agree with me, is that I found her being more emotional when it came to things that people were identifying her as versus what she did. And I'm going to say that again. I found her to be more emotional about like people's perception of her. And when it came to being accountable and all of that, it just seemed like she was more emotional when people were looking at her or judge or her perception of being judged than anything else. And that is kind of painful from the perspective of, who are you, girl? I mean, really? And the other thing is her, and I'm not going to call it the way that I feel like she felt like she was right in doing. I'm not talking about the death and making the decisions. And she never saw herself as making bad decisions. She kept on reaching for things that were not going to fill her because I'm gonna say it from what I saw, she was very empty in all of this. So if you're here with me, don't hesitate to let me know where you are and that you're here in the chat. So I'm learning, y'all. So, and again, she was convicted of capital M. Her husband, Eric Richins, and the related fraud charges that related to the money. Now, the prosecutors, as you know, or may not know, they argued that the financial distress, the image, and a desire for control were her central motives. And I'm going to say that without judgment, based on her actions, she was continuing to get deeper and deeper in a situation that was not going to come out well. Because no matter how much income was coming in, she seemed to be making decisions that she had no support on. Even though at the end, in the end, people were saying, "Oh no, I would do business with her." There's no way in HELL I would do any strategy, any planning, anything, because of her lack of integrity and her lack of consciousness, and her lack of management and stewardship as it related to resources, starting with her. It just seemed like that was empty, not even counting what she was accused of, and now she has been found guilty of. It's about a hidden fracture that occurred when a person loses touch with who they really truly are. And then when identity fracture happens, it makes it even worse. So people begin to look outside of themselves, and that's what she did. She looked outside herself for something that she could only build within. most people would be sitting back and saying, wait a minute, he got money, he's taking care of everything, whatever, whatever. However, she was looking for something to validate her and to move forward. Now, I don't know the way she thinks because I don't know her personally. However, based on everything that came out, there was some dynamics, y'all. There was some dynamics. I'm just saying. So it seemed like there was missing within. And sometimes when something is missing within, some people they reach out for money. Let's just be honest. They reach out for money. They reach out for image. They reach out for, they search for how they can control, how they can fit in, how they can move the narrative, how they can say or do things that will align to who they see or want other people to see them as. Some search for it in control, and thus some search for it in approval. And when identity becomes attached to image, external, then what normally happens is money often becomes the performance or action. Success sometimes becomes a display of, and we lose control, because control begins to feel like security, and fear begins to masquerade as protection. And so we're going to look at these cases. And again, we're going to dive deeper in Kouri Richins because she's one of my favorite as far as the money's concerned, on the money side. Now, when we look at Kouri Richins, I am going to provide some confirmed public facts. So, and that's one of the things I'm going to do on her inner narrative when it comes to money. So I'm going to share, let's share. Okay. Share a couple things with you that is going to make a difference, I hope, in where we move from here. So love without alignment is what I said can still cause damage, create damage, right? And so when you look at Kouri Richins and all the things that have happened, one of the things that literally happened in her case is that there was a deeper impact on her children, right? She still was losing resources hand over fist. She was using the money to cover the money that she needed to pay for the debt that she had already established. For an example, she did the secret $250,000 HELOC loan without him being aware, and it was on a premarital home, and the prosecutor said that Eric did not approve it, and she allegedly moved more than $2 million in debt, and she had over $1.4 million in life insurance. This is money that she got in, and she still was underwater with all the property that she had. And her identity fracture was really about, if I can just secure more money, I can finally feel safe, secure, and I can get the thing I'm interested in, which is build wealth. Because from her perspective, to hear her story, she literally thought, or was stipulating, that she was wealthy. But when you did the numbers from the forensic accountant perspective, and I'll deal with that a little bit more, is she was actually underwater, is what we call it. Now, the core lesson with her specifically was that money cannot create internal security without alignment, and her life was not aligned. More money often magnifies who the person is, and she was insecure. And so that is part of the issue. Now, even though I'm going to talk a little bit about Donald Adelson and Tracey Geist, most of theirs was not about money from that perspective. It was more of the loss of control, protecting her family through maintaining control and making decisions. And it justified, from their perspective, it justified their actions. But wealth and status do not prevent destructive, chaotic decisions when identity is tied to control. Nor, in Tracey Geist's case, direct involvement in criminal system, moral distortion, and long-term consequences was the impact that her children felt. Her identity belief was her perspective is she was right, and others must align with her decision to be right. And her plot for her son-in-law was just like, don't you know that planes go there? There's ways to build. It was like she literally needed to control it, and she was justified by her decision making because of the fact that she wanted to control it. So let's step deeper into this one. When you look at money as identity, as it connected to Kouri Richins, here's a little bit more information about the core lesson in each one of these. And those lessons are imperative as it reflects on identity, because those lessons are the things that really is going to bring up how the person is being perceived, how they are setting themselves up, what is happening in all of these spaces. And I'm looking over here so I can bring my sheet up. And all of that, each decision actually matters. And the key with this is that we need to remember that every decision we make makes a difference. Okay, so let me step out of this to step back into where we are with the fact that Kouri was so insecure. So the reality is that debt increased pressure intensity. And so the more capital that she received did not give her additional peace, because it was like every decision she made caused her to be deeper and deeper in the hole in the end. When you think about the fact that she was paying over $80,000 a month to return to the high capital or high stake investors that were there, and you call that the high stake money lenders, and because you're paying them a huge amount of money in interest, because that's the reason. And then they also have availability to the property that you're connected to, because they have no intent of coming out upside down. So not only you're paying them a huge interest rate, they also attach a lien to the property. So she was in a no-win situation unless she completed something. And most of the things that she had open were, she kept on opening new projects and nothing was really completed. And so that is part of the issue that came up with her, that kept on arriving with her. Now, the internal fracture remains unresolved, not because more money does not resolve your internal issue. Can we say that again? Just because she had more money, obviously, it doesn't mean that her internal issue was resolved. Proof is, when she got the insurance money, she started just paying down the debt, but she still didn't finish anything. She didn't make good financial decisions. And that was almost $1.4 million that she got in her hands, and it was gone like that. So when you're not a good money person, steward, manager, then it's not about how much money you receive, because she kept on getting more money, but it was never going to fill the void. So money amplifies your identity. And what I tell people is that money is not good or bad or evil or, or anything like that. Money is not evil. It's the key with it is money picks up the persona of the person who has the money. So if you're a great person and you have great integrity and character, when you get more money, you're going to do things that's in alignment with that. When you're you're going to do things in alignment with that. She couldn't hold on to money. She just couldn't. So the wealth lesson that I would like to share right now is many people actually believe more income will eliminate fear. More income will eliminate everything in their life, and they'll be better off. Everything is going to fix every problem. That's not true. More status will create will create worth. And that's not true either. And they believe more control will produce safety. But if identity is unstable, money becomes emotional spending. It just becomes a compensation. And then when you get wealth, it becomes performance. Financial decisions begin fighting the future. Now, the statement that I want now, especially in Kouri Richins' case, and she's a great but extreme example of, is a universal principle. If money becomes your source of security instead of a tool to serve your values, it can magnify the very instability that you're trying to escape from. Now, this is what the children carried. Kouri Richins' case to me is just, all of them are horrible when you look at the actions that the people took. But in her case, especially, her children experienced, they found out their father was deceased and they were told to go to bed by the mother, the grandmother. Just go to bed. Are you serious right now? And then money supposedly was taken from their college fund. There were so many things that happened to them, their name, all of those things. And this is so more of what they experienced. They lost their father. Their mother is now incarcerated. And then their name, which used to carry value positively, because of this public exposure of the case and the ongoing issues with it, there's questions about trust, safety, and their identity. The lasting message as it relates to the children is this: children should never have to pay the emotional price of decisions, adult decisions that are driven out of fear, image, or financial pressure. They should not have to deal with that. But in so many cases, not just these, even in daily life, this happens. So this is where the opportunity for us to grow and be better happens. This is the space where we get a chance to grow and be better, right? The place that we look at and say that this happened, but it doesn't have to totally wipe out everything in our lives for the rest of our lives. This situation happened, and I'm going to talk about, like, let's say loss of a job or loss of whatever. But if you have integrity, character, those things, then you can find a way to get money that's legal, moral, and ethical, okay? Instead of going out to hurt, harm, or endanger someone, or to gain control of someone else's well-being or wealth that they have created, or not account for their life in the proper way to value humanity, and then turn around and think that you have a right to what they have, or you have a right to cause them not to be alive so that you can get to your end result. And that's the thing that I have the biggest disconnect with, but also the greatest sensitivity to when it comes to the situation with her. So the signature, the quotes that I would like to share is, no amount of money can heal an identity fracture. Wealth is a magnifier, not a healer. Listen to me. Wealth is a magnifier. Wealth and power only magnifies who the person is at their core. And money should serve you, should serve your values, and not replace your sense of worth. And for real wealth begins when your financial decisions stop fighting with your future. So again, in the Donna Adelson and the Tracey Grist pieces, theirs was more control. There's not a lot that was connected to um, financial well-being as much as it was in Kouri Richins' case. And even though there was supposedly no immediate, and I'll put quotes around there, financial gain was a primary motive in the other two cases, one of the things that can be just as powerful is a sense of control. So in those two cases, the sense of control was one of the major factors. And to prevent that, what they didn't want to happen, they unalived, or they made a decision to unalive another human. And then the thing again with the children is, now how do I look at you as my, I don't know, grandmother, your family member, even your mother? How do I look at you after all of that? So, and that's the key. The key is all of those things. So we just have to be careful to not let our emotional decisions sabotage and arrest our immediate long-term frontal lobe decisions, because every decision we make matters. So these are not stories that I'm looking to condemn people, because all of us have issues. Thank God that is not my issue. However, I have been in the past in places that I could have made some really horrible decisions that could have caused me to be in a very different situation than I am today. So it's not to judge them. It's just to examine and to understand at some brief moment how I can make sure, or how I can know what my fractures are, so that I don't have to live with, I'm not opening myself up to things like that. So because we are, if we're honest, every one of us is capable of making decisions from places within us that remain unhealed. Remember, we talked about fracture. So the key is healing. The framework I want to use is simply living and leaving a legacy. So this is the last part. Decision, identity, and impact. Each one of these people made a decision. It was connected and impacted not just them, but other people's identity. And there is a huge long-term impact. See, every decision begins with the story we believe. Every story shapes our identity. And every identity is driven on the decisions of an impact. Sometimes on us, sometimes on children, sometimes for generations. And one of the most powerful truths is that I have come to believe is this, just simply powerful truth. Children do not simply inherit our love, they inherit our patterns. They inherit how we respond to pressure, how we handle money, how we define success, and how we tell the truth, how we regulate our emotions, how we treat ourselves when life becomes difficult. And that leads to one of the most important statements that I have written. So it says, love without alignment can still be damaging and create damage, not just in ourselves, but specifically in others, not just in the moment, but generationally. And that is power. Most parents, honestly, they love their children. Love is not the issue. The deeper question is this: does my life align with what I want my children to become? Because you can love your children and still model fear. You can love your children and still normalize instability. We can love them and still teach them that image and integrity does not matter. You can love your children and still make decisions that leave them carrying burdens that they were never meant to carry. And I'm being quiet because I need that to settle. And I'm not talking about a 5-year-old. I'm not talking about a 12-year-old. I'm saying love our children, even our grown children. It doesn't matter what age the child is. Because if she made a decision for her grandchildren and to unalive her son-in-law, her son, and I guess love, wasn't it? Son-in-law. Come on. They're going to have to bear that for the rest of their lives. Kouri Richins. They're going to have to bear that for the rest of their lives. Her decision making. And still call it love. That's not love. And this is where the money enters into the conversation. See, many people do not struggle with money because of the lack of intelligence. They struggle because money and their identity doesn't align. So when identity is unstable, money becomes emotional. When identity is fractured, like Kouri Richins, and especially with her, then spending becomes compensation. And so when identity is wounded, your image feels more important than the truth. And when that happens, wealth is no longer a tool, it becomes a substitute for security and a substitute for worth and a substitute for peace. But money cannot heal identity. It just can't. Image cannot replace integrity, and control cannot create peace. Real wealth begins when your financial decisions stop fighting with your future. So when we examine everything, the purpose is to help us to ask a better question. Who is better because we've lived and loved them? Who is safer? Who is stronger? Who is more whole because of us? Who has greater peace because of us? Who has greater freedom because of the life that we live? Because the people closest to us often inherit and refuse, inherit the what we are giving them, what we have handed them, when we, especially from a negative perspective, from identity first perspective, when we're not healed within ourselves, what they inherit is less like a legacy and more connected to a curse. Not because the person is cursed, it's because when we hand down fear all the time, when we hand down self-image that is negative, when we hand down lies instead of integrity and character, that can lead them to a space that is not healthy for them for the rest of their lives. Now, this doesn't mean that this is a limiting place for you. It doesn't mean that this is the only answer. It doesn't mean because of something that has happened in your life, in their lives. It doesn't mean that the Richins boys are going to have this dark cloud above them and it's going to always follow them and all of that. That's not what that means directly. Because in so many cases, you'll see where the children have picked up another name, a surname that is different because of all the publicity, because of all the negativity. I mean, you even have people who are famous and positive that has picked up another surname because they don't want their lives in the way people see them to be directly related to the name that they have been given, even when it's positive. So people don't want it when it's negative, right? But that is what we deal with. So when I say living and leaving a legacy, that's not just money. That's a good name. That's teaching them a pattern that's going to help them long term. That's making a difference in their lives and the lives of others. So the greatest gift that we can give the next generation is not perfection. It's just not. It's alignment. Alignment between what we say and what we do. It is connected to our patterns. Alignment between what we value and what we model. Pattern. Alignment between who we claim we are and who we actually live like. Pattern. Love feels good, but alignment, that transforms. And my hope is that every person watching will live with the profound realization that no matter what you have been exposed to, you can choose what the next generation is exposed to through you. That is the key. You can choose what the next generation is going to be exposed to through you. So, yes, I have the bug of court and seeing fractures from a perspective of identity fractures. I am not, I love my daughter's channel and all that she does. I love the fact that y'all come and hang out with me. And it is my intent to provide insight and information to help you build the identity that can house the resources and the favor and the wealth, not just money, but intelligence and health and all of those things that will outlive you and make an impact And this is the other thing, is to look at it from the fact that I cannot control others, but I can control myself. So as I shut down, I feel like a preacher, y'all. I've closed for what, 3 times now? I want to make sure. But that is the key. I'm going to show you. This is important. It makes a difference because the key is it's about being in alignment. Now, there's going to be some other things that I put out on my site. My YouTube channel, and especially in the section that has comments and has conversations in. I'm going to put information out there. But what I would like each one of you to do is to subscribe, to join. But more than anything, when you review this, ask questions. For an example, it could be a question as simple as, what could her friend have done differently to protect herself when she gave her $45,000? It could be a question like this. I want to enter into building wealth through owning real estate. What do you recommend as my first place? Because I do real estate, I do investments, I do all of those things, right? So tap into that on me so we can grow wealth, mental, emotional, financial, and spiritual in such a way that any fracture that you have, whether it be through parenting or, let's say, the way we were brought up or what we were taught, that we can take all of those things and use them for our good. Because our past does not have to be our future. That there's greater ahead for you and I. And I just want to thank you for staying here and peeking. But let me know if there's any questions or anything, because this is about providing additional support and information to you. And just so other people can have this information as well, what I'm going to do is include, is take this so you can take a picture of it for later. How money amplifies your identity. It does not repair it. And this is information from Kouri Richins' case. And it shows you the identity issues. And it also shows you the issues that the children will carry. And then provides you some of the signature quotes that I have provided today. So I am Johnny. I am the Mindset Maven, helping you bridge the gap between what you know and what you do. And that gap is identity and is action. Have an amazing day. I like Patrice's Don't Do Crime, but I'm not going to tell you that. What I'm going to tell you is greater is ahead for you. Make the decision of what you want and what you're willing to do in exchange for it. And ensure that thing that you'll do in exchange for it is both legal, moral, and ethical. Okay? Have a great one.